Hive. So I was just going over with the recap that we had in the last previous session. So let's continue with Hive. So now, now that we know what data types can be used in Hive, right? So let's look at an example of a simple Hive table, which is being created with HQL, HiveQL. Okay. So in this example, a table named users, it's being created with 4 columns. Okay. So there is an ID column which is of the int data type, and along with an office ID of office underscore ID column of the same type. Uh, there also is a name column that is of the string data type, and finally an array column called children. You can look at this screen. Basically, it's very easy to understand. So this array column called children, which can hold strings values. Okay. So we tell Hive that what we are instructing Hive here is like we are telling that the fields in our rows are basically de-eliminated by the pipe character. Okay, and we then tell the Hive that the collection items in the array field are terminated by the colon character. Okay, just take a look at that. Try to understand. I mean, I have highlighted that. I mean, like in the marked in the red arrow marks. Right. So let's move on to the next slide. So finally, like we explicitly specify that our data file is a plain text file. Okay. So we are into a new concept like inspecting some tables. So once our table is created, we can then run the show tables basically, and this show table statements to see the listing of all the tables in our database. Okay, and we can also use the describe statement to view some metadata for specific table. Okay, so further we can use describe extended basically to view the additional table in the metadata. Okay. So if you are new to SQL, if you are new to Java, or if you don't know any programming language, please go over this slide and a bit carefully so that you can, I mean, like enhance your skill with SQL and HiveQL, because you'll be in big data, you'll be using Hive a lot. Okay. Let's move on. So table partition. So this is another concept. So in this example, our new users table will not be will now be partition on division, which we specify is of the string data type. Okay, and we accomplished this by adding the partition by clause. You can see that we have added partition by clause. So division will now be like it will be like a virtual column, and the division is not actually stored in the data file with the rest of the data. Okay, I think somehow joined. Right, I'll just mute them. All right. So so now that we have this partition table, once I mean like the division. I'm sorry, the division will not be like it's creating a virtual column. Okay, and this division will not be like it will not store in the data file for the rest of the other data. Got it. So now we are trying to partition the table. Once the data is loaded in the HDFS, our Hive queries will be able to take advantage of the fact that each partition it's a separate directory that basically contains just one partitions. Okay, and this partition is the data on the file system. Makes sense, right? So this will basically help us to achieve better performance, especially when you're running queries with where clause. Okay, and the less data we need to basically like the less data we will require for reading and processing for okay, and the better as we gain the benefit of reduced latency. Okay, so less data we need for reading and processing on the query. Okay, so inside the box of on this screen you can get a feel for what the physical directory structure would look like for a table with three partition. Okay, and down the warehouse path we can see that the directory for the database, the table and the partition. So take a look at this slide. Uh, just give I'll move it to the next slide in a few moments. All right, so moving on, we have something called managed tables, right? And let's compare this managed versus external tables. So tables in Hive can either be managed or external. Okay, so the tables by default are managed by Hive. Okay, so this is entry point of question, like what will be the default tables in Hive? Tables by default are managed by Hive. Okay, so it is not external, it is managed. So Hive also controls the metadata for that table and and the life cycle of the actual data in the table. Okay, so here the managed table data is basically stored in subdirectories within the configured warehouse directory, and and by dropping a managed table will also delete the actual table data in addition to the metadata Hive stored for that table. Okay, so when you're trying to drop a managed table, that means like the actual table in the data. It's 10 o'clock. In the data, and will be like it will delete with the metadata. Okay. So let's contrast this behavior to the Hive's external tables. Like let me mute one. Okay, it's muted. So Hive, see, in an external tables data files are basically it's stored in a location outside of Hive. Okay, so Hive does not assume its own assume that it's owns the data in the table dropping an external table. That means like it deletes just the table metadata and leaves the actual untouched data. Okay, so external tables can be like useful if you are sharing your data with other tools outside of the Hive. Okay, and also creating an external table is it's simply requires the addition of the external and location keywords. So so to create a table statement. Okay, so you in interview perspective, like this will be a question like what are the keywords you need for creating a table statement for external. So you can tell them like you require the addition of external and location keyword. Okay, so moving on, we have drop table and alter table. So dropping a table in Hive is done using a drop table syntax. There are a variety of ways to alter a Hive table as well. So we can change the name of a table and add or remove columns, and we can also alter the table properties and lot more. Okay. So I have highlighted it. I mean, like it should be visible for you guys. Right. So let me move on to the next slide. So make sure that before using the drop table, always be cautious because the table and you cannot reproduce it again. You cannot undo basically. Okay. So data are really very sensitive. So whenever you are playing with it using drop, think twice. Uh, 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 be very cautious before doing that. Okay. Right. So let's move on to the next slide. Indexes. So indexes in Hive, there is a variety of advanced topics. Okay, and one of them are being indexing. Okay, so the goal of the Hive indexing is to improve the speed of query lookups for certain columns of a table. Okay, it's also very important to note that the speed improvement comes at the cost of processing. Okay, and the disk space are the indexing data which is stored in the another table of the file system. Okay, so here is a few simple statement that's been demonstrated on the screen. So how to create, show, delete, and index everything. So there is also a variety of other indexing topics, including bitmap indexes and more. I'll share you the Hive guide. Basically, you can look at that indexing type. So let's move to the next slide. So this will be like so far, like we have been looking at DDL, Hive DDL. Okay, let's look at more on the DML part of the Hive. After after completing this DML lesson, you should be able to like load data into Hive. Um, you should be able to export data out of Hive and run a variety of different Hive QL DML queries. Okay, so we can have some hands-on after this session. I mean, like with the theory session, we'll have some practical as well, so you can understand how to process things. Also, I have sent you some assignments. Hopefully, you have seen that. So I'll get back to the assignment later part. So in Hive DML, what we are doing is we are basically trying to load data into Hive from a file. We will more onto data loading. So in order to make use of Hive, let's get some actual data into database. Okay, so the first example basically it shows one way to bring data into Hive table. So we load the data from a theoretical file named like user.dat. Uh, so just think the file name is user.dat. Okay, and so we are trying to load the data into the table named users in this example. Okay, so the local is the keyword that tells Hive to look on the local file system. That is our Linux file system. That's our local file system, right? On top of Linux only we are running Hadoop, right? So it will Hive will Hive will tell to look on the file system. I mean local file system, and the file system name would be like it will ask to check with the name users.dat, and in the temporary data folder, that's slash tmp slash data folder. So the local data is basically copied into the final location on HDFS. Okay, so if we leave off the local keyword, then Hive assumes that the local locations we are referring is on the HDFS. Okay, by default it will think like it's within the Hadoop file system. Okay, so it is very important if you are trying to move it from a local file system, mention the keyword local. Okay. So if our data file is on the HDFS, then the data is actually moved to its final location, and within the Hive's grasp in HDFS. Um, See, when the data is being loaded into the tables, Hive does not do any transformation to the data. Okay. The second example, basically it shows local file called user ny.dat. Okay. So this data is being loaded into the partitioned user table. The table basically is the partitioned on the country and state. Okay, so a new HDFS directory will be created with the user table directory called country is US. Okay, which will contain the another directory called the state as NY. So in this example, the local file is again copied into the HDFS directory. Okay, so we will look into that. So now we load in another concept. Basically, what we saw so far is with it's we are trying to load data from a file. Okay, from one single file. Okay, so now we are trying to uh, loading a data from a directory. Okay, so we can also load data from a whole directory into a Hive table. Okay, so in this example, we are loading data from a directory of files into a user table, and if you look carefully, you will notice this statement is called local at the keyword local, right? So therefore, Hive will look to the HDFS for the data. So this makes sense, right? I told you what, like if you use local keyword local, then Hive will look into the local file system, which is your Linux file system. If you take the keyword local from your query, so it will look into the HDFS basically. Okay. So the actual data is moved to the final location under the Hive's control on HDFS. That makes sense, right? So all of the files that were in the path like user slash user slash by admin slash user data files, basically the directory are being copied into the Hive. Okay, so here you need to note the override keyword in the statement. It can uses the contents of the target, basically the target table, and it can be deleted and replaced. Okay, so if we are if we were to leave the override keyword out, then the data files would be added to the contents of the table. Okay, and if that is your intention, just make sure that the new data files are named differently from the ones which is already existing in your Hive. Okay, otherwise like Hive will overwrite the old one with the new one. That means like you're trying to modify uh, your original data. Okay, just give me a moment, guys. Hello. Yeah. Okay. அது இன்னும் டிசைட் பண்ணல, அது மார்னிங் பார்த்துக்கலான்னு விட்டேன். Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Excuse me, guys. So that's about the loading data from a directory. So moving on, so we are also trying to load data into Hive from a query perspective as well. So data can be loaded into Hive from a query as well. Okay. So the first example shows that the tables can be created from the results of query on another table in Hive. Okay. So the second example is similar, except it uses the insert insert overwrite clauses to get the data into the new table. So just take a look at this. Maybe you can understand the difference, like insert overwrite. Right. So let's move on to the next slide. You guys are still with me, right? Great. Good. The two boys are sleeping. Right. We have another important concept here out of Hive. So getting data into Hive is great, okay. But if we also need to be able to get the data out of Hive in many scenarios. So let's say like you had a table in Hive and you wanted all the data in that table, and like the storage format the data which is already in. Okay, so you could just go ahead and copy the data file right off Hive, because you know where it is located on HDFS, right? So already, and perhaps it's more likely you want to write out of the results of query to file. Okay, so the example were shown where here. Basically, it shows you how to use the insert overwrite local directory. Okay, excuse me, guys. Just give me a moment. I'm getting few important calls. Hello. Yeah. What am I? I'm sorry, guys. So, so here, what we are trying to show here is we are trying to insert overwrite local directory. Okay, so this clause, this clause is to do this. Like in our example, we are trying to write out a few columns from the sales table to my directory. That is the path is slash my directory slash data export. So this directory on our local system, the data will be written to the file system is by default, which is serialized as text, and the columns are separated by the control. Okay, so a character and rows are basically separated by new lines. Okay, and And what else? Like, okay, so here non-primitive columns are basically like serialized to JSON format. Okay, so the Twitter data we have try to import using Flume. I mean like from the Twitter using Flume is JSON format. Okay, and you may also explicitly specify delimiters and delimiters and the file format for the exported data. Okay, and using the insert override statement to HDFS is a good way to extract large amount of data. Okay, and basically it is from Hive, because Hive can write to these directories in parallel from within a map reduced job. Okay, also a warning message is there, like a big warning here. The directory is in the insert override statement is overwritten, right? So the directory gets clobbered, it's clobbered and replaced with output. And don't accidentally delete your home directory like I did when I first tried with this statement out. Okay, so let's move on. I hope it should be getting right. I'm like it's easy to understand, isn't it? Okay. We will see what is select from. So if you know SQL already, or MySQL, or PostgreSQL, or Cassandra, or any relational database system, then HiveQL's DML have some relatively few surprises. Okay, so I already broke the surprise for you guys because I thought like you guys know you guys are expert in SQL, but unfortunately, like in the previous session, you guys said like you're newbies. All right, so we will cover just a portion of HiveQL in this presentation. Okay, and we will trying to point out some of the things that make HiveQL different from SQL, because SQL is not our intention. I mean, like it's not into our syllabus. So you have so as we look at the SQL, it's easy to forget that we aren't we are just working with the normal RDBMS here. Okay, so behind the covers, we are taking advantage of Hadoop's ability to process massive distributed data sets. Okay, so the first example here is a simple select query, and we are selecting all the columns from the users table, and limiting the output to a maximum of 3 rows. Okay, so I'm using at the last, I mean like at the end of the query, I'm limiting to 3. I can limit up to 10 also, right? If you have a lakhs of rows, then you should be like limiting, you would like to limit, right? So I'm using limit word here. Basically the children column is of the array data type here, and notice that Hive outputs the array elements in a brackets. Okay, so whenever you get brackets, that means like Hive is giving you output with array element. Okay, in the second example here, is a query that selects 2 columns, and the column name and the name column, and the first zero element from the children array. So this is the second example, and the last example shows that a select statement whose output includes the struct column. Okay, so you can see this see that this address column of the data type struct basically prints out the JSON format. Okay, Also note that the map data type in Hive is also output in JSON format. Stored in JSON format. Okay. Right. So I would ask you one question here. So what will be the output for the array elements? Like how it would be looking like? My question was like how the array elements looks like in Hive. How the output would be looking at? Yes or no? Maybe I don't know.
Karthik, do you mean what format?
Yes. What format? Yeah.
Is it JSON?
In anything.
Is it in JSON format?
Yes. Obviously, it's in JSON format. But how would be the array element looks like?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. How about Bhagyaraj? How about Neha and Sidhu? No idea. All right. Okay. I just let me go back to the previous slide.
It selects the customer name which has it only gives the Bruce Smith.
Mhm. Right. So basically, the answer to my question is like the output of the array elements will be in brackets. Okay. So I have highlighted that. Don't know how you guys missed to note that, because this kind of silly questions will be coming from the interview panel. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next one. So here comes the where clause. Basically, this where clause is similar to what you have used in other SQL dialects. Okay, so this predict the operator wherein often where you use the where clause, and which is our and these are listed here, and which includes equals, not equals, or greater than, or less than, and so on. Okay. So the first statement includes a where clause. We also show how the data within a struct column can be accessed using the dot notation. Okay. The second example is a statement that includes a group by clause. Basically, a group by clause is usually used with the aggregate function, and you can also use the having clause with a group by. Okay. So far, we have been seeing like whatever you use in SQL, we are seeing that in here. I'm like in Hive. So this is nothing new if you know about SQL. And moving on, we have columns and alias and nested select. So in HiveQL, we can use column as alias. Uh, in the first example here is address.city. Is given the column alias of city. Okay, so column aliases come in handy when doing basically when you are trying to do a nested select statement. Okay, so in other example, we can select a customer's name and compute their year to date rewards, like 1% of their sales, which is alias with the word rewards, right? So we can alias that whole first query with the letter C. The final select clause then selects just the customers who have earned over $25 of rewards. Okay. So moving on, just take a look at this one. Try to understand yourself if I'm making it confused. I'm not rushing here because I just wanted to you all to be clarified with everything. Anyway, we are going to see that in practical as well. So you should have some clarity in practicals as well. Right. So let's move to the next one.
Karthik, I have a doubt in the previous one query. In that first loop, you have mentioned C after the bracket, right? Select.
Yes.
Okay. So now, whatever the output coming from the first loop is getting stored in the object. It's like the C is like kind of an object. Is it something like that? So when we access the name of the objects in C, like C dot name, it
Yeah.
gets the values from the previous uh, loop, right? That's how it works, isn't
Exactly.
it? Okay.
You're right.
Thanks, Karthik. That's
Yeah.
all.
Right. So moving on, we will continue the rest of the Hive sessions in the next session. So as you guys told me, like you are all new to SQL, so I don't want to rush Hive basically. So usually Hive could be like it should be finished in one day, but I'm taking much time on Hive because you should be knowing each and every loop concepts of Hive, and you can expect Hive questions a lot. And Hive is really very easiest thing in the Hadoop ecosystem. Okay, so let's have some practical session. Uh, my screen is visible, right?
No, Karthik.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay. Just give me a moment, guys. Hello. Yeah. Yeah, Karthik, who is this? Yeah, hi Kitsana. Okay. I'm like, which part of Nanaga you're in? Okay, I'm also in behind West Depot, Park Road. It's primary school or it's how's that? So I would suggest not to come alone because it's a bit isolated. So I'm like, do you know like this mosque park? It's in Park Road. Uh, no, not Millennium Park. I'm telling you. Do you know the mosque which is in the Park Road? Yeah, yeah, I know the church. Yes, yes, but where do you stay? I mean, like from where you are studying? Then? Okay, first right. Then it means like the cake shop, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I'll catch you then in the morning. See, if you want to come here, come to my home. What you need to do, like you can come to Cafe Day. Cafe Day. My home is like some 200 300 meters only. just next to Parkour Mosque, and so I'm planning to start by 4:30 like that, because it's hardly 1.5 hours journey. So either of need to either of either ways. I mean, like either of going straight, or else I'll go to Tambaram and go with the pool people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please. Anyway, like once you're up, you can give me a wake up call as well, because I didn't sleep for past 2 3 days. So sometimes I used to oversleep. So yeah. Yes, yes. Anytime. Yeah. Good night. Yeah. Bye. Oops. All right. So guys, what we do, I just start my VM. And guys, I have shared you some assignments. So please make sure that you all four of you must attend the assignments. Uh, okay, I've streamed it, right? I just scheduled it to send it today. Right, so here it is. So I have mentioned that it's compulsory. So if you're not able to get anything from this session, that's okay. That's perfectly all right. Go with this uh, assignments, because I have mentioned the steps as well. Okay, so the steps are very easy for you guys to follow up. And basically, if you want more detailed on this, I can send you more resource as well. So, but this if you follow the on-screen instruction, it will be very easy, guys. Okay. All right. So I'm here. Right, guys. So what I do, I'll show you like how to see a database. Then we'll see some tables. Okay. So first we need to get into Hive, right? So can you guys tell me like what is the step to get into the Hive command prompt?
Just type Hive.
Okay. Right. Right. So you guys are still up. Okay, so what I do, uh, so what I did here is I just copied from my Mac to Linux here, the folder called datasets. So we'll be working with this in this practical. So what are the files inside? This is like some dataset underscore hive. Some file as a text file called drugs, a patient, a file called patients, patient one, patient two, patient three, JSONs. All right. So the content of this is like have some numbers, then looks like some name, and looks like some medicine, some drug, and looks like the gender, and something looks like it should be like it should be their age, right? Okay, so what we do here, we will play with this little. So what I'm trying to do is I will create a database. Basically, this file was something related to hospital, right? So we'll go and create a hospital database. Guys, can you quickly type how to list how to see the in my DB? How can I see other databases? What is the
Show
command?
database. Show database.
You need to type on the chat.
Uh, no, Karthik, I'm connecting through this mobile. I don't know how to type. That's why I'm telling.
Okay. All right. So is that anything visible on your screen? Right, one sec. Right. So great, Neha. It's show database exactly. So I have created a database name as hospital. Okay. So when I type database, show databases. All right. So I hope you guys you remember that that day we tried to create a list of database, and this is our new database, right? We just now created one. So in order to use this database, default it's in default it will be in default database. Okay, I want to switch it to a different database. I mean, like I want to switch to hospital database. So I'm instructing Hive, please use hospital database. Okay, that's it. It says yes. Okay, I will use hospital. Okay, so now what we do, uh, let's look at the file. So we have the first one would be patient ID. Let me increase the font size. Uh, right. So the first one is kind of patient ID, right? The second one is like patient name. Third one could be it's a drug, and the last one I mean like before the last one is it's gender, and the last would be like it's let's say like it's the amount. Okay, so the amount paid for paracetamol is rupees 12. Rupees 12. Okay, or let's consider $12. Okay. Finally, the last one is your amount that patient have paid for that particular drug. Okay, I'm sorry. I initially told that this is their age, but not the age. It's the price. 26 is the price for the metacin. Okay, and it is paid by Rajesh, and the patient ID is 03. Okay, so let's create a managed table here, and we have commas separated. So what we do is like we will try to row format and de-eliminated the fields by comma. Okay, and we will try to store as a text file. So let's do that. Create patient, create table patient. Okay, patient. Uh, let's say PID is your patient name. I mean like patient ID, and it's an integer. Yes, and let's say patient name, and it's a string. Let's say the next one is drug, right? Patient ID, patient name, drug. Okay. So the next one is drug, and it's going to be a string type. And then we have what's after drug. We have gender. So we mentioned gender, and that's going to be string. And is the total amount they paid. So let's say like total amount int. Okay, so close this, and let's declare the row formatted terminated by row format be eliminated by I think yes, delimited fields, and it should be terminated by and stored as text file. Okay, that is what we want to do, right? Text file. I hit enter, and it created all the degrees which is required for the. I'm just declaring the degrees. Okay, it's going to be patient ID, and it's an integer. The next one is patient name, that is P name. I have declared as P name, and that's going to be string. I'm using some strings here as P name, and then drug, which is also a string. Okay, and next is gender, that is also a string. And next is it's your total amount, that is int. Okay, Right. So now what we do, we will load the data into the in path into the table patient. Okay. So for that, what I need to do is load data in path data set underscore hive dot text into, okay, should mention this one as well. Okay, into table patient. Okay, what it says, no files matching the path in HDFS local domain data sets. Okay, so what I need to do here is I need to mention the correct path. Okay, and as a way to check the path, you can always click on the properties. You can always copy this, right? Right, so let's type that home Cloudera. Uh, now let's try load data in path home slash cloud Cloudera slash desktop desktop slash data for desktop data sets, yes, and under that data underscore hive dot txt. Okay, underscore hive dot txt, and where I'm storing the table into the table called patient. Okay, so I'm creating a new patient table. Okay, and I'm trying to insert all this data inside that. Okay, so we have seen today this in the theory part that we can use that is in from a file. I mean, like we are trying to insert through a file and basically from your local. I mean, like from your HDFS. So it's getting into the table name called patient under the hospital database. Okay, so a patient will table will be created and all the data will get inside. Okay. Oh man, come on. Oh, oh. Right, I don't know why says invalid path, but the right path. Mm, right, so let's try something. Try to run from there itself. So you can guys like don't know what's happening, but it should get into the all the things should be get into this one. Uh, Let me try once. Don't know why it's malfunctioning. Uh, Oh, uh, parts exception. Okay. So yeah.
It's 11 o'clock.
Oh my god. Let's restart the VM. Otherwise, I'll show you in some other VM as well. It's small functioning. I'll show you in a different VM I have. Alright, guys, I'll continue with this maybe tomorrow night. Is that okay, guys? Because it's
Sure, Karthik.
yeah. So I also wanted to tell you guys that I have sent some assignments. So please go over that because it should be working with your VMs because I used to get these problems often unexpected because of my Mac environment have such kind of things. Sometimes it malfunctions. So what I have sent you is Hive Lab. Basically, inside you'll be having list of exercises. Okay. So what you need to do is like you can just follow the instructions. Basically, everything is mentioned. Okay. So we have different scenarios like loading data from of a movie or let's say like for a flight or a sales of an airline or let's say like the basketball theory or something. Okay, so it's very easy, guys. I mean, like just follow the instructions. And it's easy. And also, I have added you few set of examples here, so you can take a look at that. Okay, so just you can just for the first time you can just copy paste. You do one by one. Okay, it should be working for you guys. Okay, so try to take this assignment as a assignment for Christmas. So try to finish this before Christmas because the next session we'll be having. I mean, like the next week we'll be having more on the pig side. So that's a different concept. It's a new another concept you have to go through. That is also very important, as important as Hive. So just spend little time on your holidays for this Hive. Okay. All right. So anything, guys?